So to everyone who's joining the podcast for the first time, this is the Recipes for Success podcast that is being organized by myself, Annie DeGroot at Epivax, and Katie Porter at Epivax. We have a very exciting set of topics tonight. First, I wanted to check in with everyone to see how they survived the blizzard. Any scary blizzard stories to tell?
Parking is now scary.
Parking is scary. I shoveled. Do you guys have snow machines? I noticed that it's mostly guys out there with the snow machines. Nope. Me, it was me. Yeah. Good exercise. I put it on the app where I'm recording my exercise. They don't have snow shoveling, but they have snow shoeing. I figure it's sort of cool.
Shoeing, yeah.
Let's go with the purpose of this podcast. For those of you who don't know us already, is to talk about recipes for success. That means women in biotechnology getting together in their kitchens with a glass of wine, cooking some dinner, talking about how to succeed in biotechnology. And also another favorite topic of ours is food. So we'll have a cook tonight. We also talk about science, so we may get into the immunology of COVID-19, something that's been fascinating us recently. And let's start by introducing the members of the podcast. So I'm going to start with the cook tonight. Vibha, what are you cooking, and introduce yourself?
Great, thank you, Annie, and I'm looking forward to, again, the second podcast of since we started. So I am the chef for tonight, and I'm going to cook a few of the very simple Indian meals which we make, and it's all for everyone who wants to get food in 30 minutes after you come back from work. And it can be done with an Instant Pot, and it's vegetables and proteins, but it's all vegetarian, so it's healthy and not very oily, but it has some very good spices. Not the hot spices, but the ones which help you with your inflammatory responses or anti-inflammatory responses. Great. So I also want to introduce two of my sous chefs who are, one of them is my daughter, and the other one is also a friend of my daughter's, and she's a vegetarian, and they're both in 9th grade. So Lily and Mahika, if you want to come say hello to everyone, they are the ones who are cooking in the back.
Great. Are they future scientists as well?
Maybe, I don't know.
So they have an interesting fact to tell. Why don't you tell what you did in the summer? You ran a STEM camp.
We ran a STEM camp in the summer.
Very nice.
Awesome. And Mahika, I think you have a LinkedIn profile if anybody wants to find her on LinkedIn. Mahika Jawa.
Yes.
Yeah.
Cool. Lily, do you have one too?
No.
Okay.
But she was one of the STEM club. She volunteered in the summer, and they ran small science experiments with help from the BMS scientists. So it was a very successful 1-week-long camp. I'll quickly tell you what we are cooking because I have to start prepping it in the back, and then we can. So we are going to make an eggplant, but it's more Indian style. So it's roasting right now on the gas burner. You can see that. And it has to roast from all sides. I just put a little bit oil. And Mahika and Lily are prepping the bell peppers because we're going to put some stuffed potatoes in it and then put it on the pan to cook. And then we'll also start on the Instant Pot to make a lentil, which we call dal. So we'll go through it. I will show you what we do, but you can carry on with the others.
Vibha, do you want to just introduce yourself scientifically?
I'm working at Bristol Myers Squibb. I lead the bioanalytical group there in the non-clinical disposition for biologics. So we are working with different modalities. I have a biochemistry PhD in biochemistry with an immunology thesis on autoimmune diseases from India, and then I came here and did a lot of gene therapy research, and then I went to Amgen and then Merck, and now currently I'm at Bristol Myers.
Excellent, thank you so much. So we're going to go from you while you prepare your pot, your hot pot.
Can I just ask, Vibha, will you send us the recipe when this is?
Yes, so Micah is in the process of making a recipe book for all of us. So Annie, we will need your recipes from the first one, the celiac mash, as well as the pasta which you made, and she's collecting all of them. But we will send you.
Oh, that's great. The
Yes.
gift
Okay.
giving. Thank
All
you.
right. So to go on in the introductions, we're going to introduce our special guest, Jennifer Calderini. Sorry. And she goes by Jen. Jen, why don't you give us a little bit of background on yourself?
Sure. So my name is Jen. I'm currently a senior associate scientist at Pfizer in Massachusetts. I was actually born here in Massachusetts, but did my undergrad in Rhode Island and then my master's degree at the University of Georgia. And I went straight into industry from my master's degree, but I was at a smaller company previously.
Great. Thank you. Thank you very much for joining tonight. And then, of course, Sophie Tourdeau, please introduce yourself.
Hi, Sophie. I work at Pfizer. I joined Pfizer 4.5 years ago, and before that I was in France. I was the big move to the US to join my new company, and I lead the immunogenicity sciences group.
Great, thank you so much. Amy Rosenberg.
Yes, so hello, everybody. I have a medical background. I worked for, I did a postdoc at NIH with Al Singer in immunology. And I worked then for FDA for 30 some odd years, doing both research and regulatory work and really focusing on immunogenicity of therapeutic proteins. And I just joined Epivax in September. I'm delighted.
Yes.
Great. Thank you, Amy. And last but not least, Katie Porter.
Hi, my name is Katie Porter. I'm the business development manager at Epivax. I've been there for about 5.5 years with a lot of history and education in biotechnology and on the bench, but now in the business side of things, which is a different beast in and of itself, and getting my master's degree at Northeastern University for my master's in business administration. So a lot of different expertise on the call, I guess.
Great. Great. Thank you very much, Katie. So Katie's MC. And we're going to start with the topic that I think is very important for women in biotechnology, and that is how do we deal with family responsibilities while we're trying to pursue a career in biotechnology. And that's why we have Jen Calderini on the podcast today. Most of the members of this podcast do have children. A lot of our children are older, so we can certainly pitch in and talk about our experiences and how we dealt with having kids and dealing with careers in biotechnology. But we did want to speak to somebody who's actually experiencing young children, biotechnology, and COVID all at the same time. So we'll talk to Jennifer in a second. I just want to share one story that I think is characteristic of my generation. I'm 65. My kids are in their late 20s, early 30s. I have two. And on snow days, like the one we're experiencing in the Northeast today, if it was a work day and school was closed and babysitters were not available, frequently it was impossible to figure out what to do with the kids. And so because I'm actually a physician, and on days when you have snow days, you are still seeing patients usually. And so I would take my kids to work with me. I worked in a TB clinic. Obviously, I would not take the kids into the room with the TB patients, but I would put them underneath the desk. They were probably 8 and 4 at the time. So the 8-year-old would take care of the 4-year-old. I would give them lots of fun books to look at, food, and bribe them so that they would behave. And honestly, it's not an ideal situation. However, I was the TB physician in the clinic, and so it was something that I had to do if I was going to be able to work. And I've continued that actually at my own clinic now, where I run a free clinic for uninsured patients in Providence. We frequently do have members of the team bring their kids in if they cannot find coverage. So it's not unusual to see children at the clinic. Of course, during COVID, it's a lot more complicated because the consequences of even a minor exposure for a child can be significant. So I'm not saying it's ideal, but I'm saying that sometimes you have to do things that aren't optimal. For 1 or 2 times, you might have to resort to some innovative strategies. But so Jen, do you want to tell us a recent story for yourself, if you have one that you'd like to share, and how you're dealing? Maybe you should tell us a little bit about your kids first, how old they are, and what you do on snow days.
Sure. Yeah, so right now, actually, I only have one. His name's Nathaniel. He's almost 2, so I'm actually due with my second baby. He'll be 2 when that baby's here. So obviously he's, they say the terrible twos. So he's great. And, he's very, I would say, just not so difficult to manage as a 2-year-old could be, but it is hard to work from home with him because just the age, they're looking for you to pay attention to them 24/7 and be on the floor playing with them and not just, sitting them by the TV or something. So I would say it's the same today, where we're kind of struggling and just seeing, whoever we can get to come for things like snow days. The one caveat is with COVID, and I'm sure we'll get more into this later. It's not like a once or twice a year thing anymore. It's like every other week there's something that is throwing throwing a wrench in the plans like this. So he does go to daycare, but there are daycare closures, etc. And yeah, so the most recent time we had a daycare closure, I was able to work from home, which is great. I am still at the bench, but we have days where there aren't experiments planned and we just have kind of data analysis to complete. And on those days, I'm able to work from home. But again, it's not the easiest to get work done. I can't really do a call with him on it at this age. And so my husband is also full-time remote right now. And my mom and dad are actually full-time remote right now. They're not retired yet, and they live 20 minutes away. So we've had days where, there's 4 of us in a room.
Wow.
And we're just, all right, who doesn't have a call? Who doesn't have anything right now? We'll just, that person's on with him for 20 minutes and then we switch. And yeah, so
we
talk
a little bit about having a network of support, and it sounds like you have a lot.
I don't know how.
Yeah.
I would love to talk to more women who don't have that, because I really don't know how they survive. I wouldn't be able to get work done.
Yeah, we did talk about it recently, and it turns out that if you don't have a network of support from your family, you end up having a network of support from your friends, and they will be either the kids at daycare, their parents, or your kids' friends when they're a little bit older. It's incredibly important to have that. So network of support, yes. Sophie, did you want to add to that? You were the one that had the network of support, right?
Well,
from friends?
Sort of. I had my mom 30 kilometers away, friends not so much, sister not so much. So I ended up having to take a day off. And talking about employers, I don't think I've ever worked somewhere when my daughter was little, where I could take her to work with me. Probably also because I always worked in a lab, so it was a bit difficult.
Yeah, labs are hard.
At the bench and leave her in the office space. So that's another thing as well, being a woman in biotech for all this time early in your career when you're at the bench, or even later if you're still at the bench. That makes it even more difficult.
Well, child care can actually help at home child care. So I think, Amy, that was your situation, correct?
Yes, so my kids were in daycare, but I did have a wonderful nanny who drove and picked them up and took care of them. The government is also really reasonable about the need for unscheduled leave. So, you know, with bad weather and such like that, they either closed it. I mean, this is the days before there were remote meetings. But you could also take unscheduled leave. So it was a very liberal kind of situation. And I was lucky to have that kind of support, both from daycare places, which would extend their hours, and from this wonderful nanny who has remained close to our family. So that was
that's
thing.
great. We actually did talk a little bit about unscheduled time off and parental leave. And Katie, do you want to update us on that situation at EpiVax?
Oh, we talked about unscheduled time off, and then also people donating time off to other people. And actually, we talked about it on the podcast, and then shortly thereafter, I was able to make use of that policy. A gentleman who works for me, when he had a sudden adoption. So they'd been on a list for adoption for a very long time, and all of a sudden they were getting a baby in 2 weeks. And so he did not have time available to take off. So myself and 2 other people donated time so that he got a solid 6 weeks of paternity leave with the baby. So he's now back. Extremely appreciative that EpiVax has the policy and that we were all willing to do it, which we certainly were. And so we're just happy that he was able to spend that time with the baby. So it is a very useful policy to have if employers don't have it yet. It is something that they should.
Yes,
that's the other thing the government had was the ability to donate leave. And it was a widely used program for some of the reasons you're mentioning, but also sick leave to donate to people who were undergoing medical treatment for something or other. So
yeah, it's great.
All right, we need a little food update here.
Update from Viva, yeah. I was gonna say.
So we began. We are just going to tell you what we did so that we stay within the hour time frame. So move the camera. You can show from the camera. I'm just going to. So what Lily is doing, she's frying some onions in our wok. And if you remember the roasted eggplant, we're going to remove the skin of it and mash it up. And she's going to put that in the onions. Lily, are you ready to put the tomatoes in that? Yeah, go ahead. So she had chopped some tomatoes and she's putting it in the fried onions. Just go ahead, put it. And then we'll put some spices. So let's show, that's it. Yeah, good.
Viva, what do you do with the eggplant skin? That's probably
that's all blistered. So we throw it away. It's all like carbon and so it's called it's called the eggplant hash, and the flavor comes from the smokiness of when you cook it on an open flame. So normally you would do it on a coal fire or something, but right now we just put it on the gas burner. So it just blisters and you remove the skin, and then the inside it's very smooth and creamy. And we just mash it with like a potato masher, or sometimes the kids don't like the fiber, so we just put it in the immersion blender, and I just make it very smooth. And so it's like a baba ganoush, but it's more Indian spices. So you can think of the texture of baba ganoush.
Sounds delicious.
Yeah,
it's
one of the most favorite dishes in India. With people eat it with the roti or chapati, or they can eat it with naans or whatever, like bread. So the other thing which Micah is doing is, again, we put some cumin seeds. Micah, can you show the spice here?
Yeah, I want to see all those beautiful spices.
Yeah. So
I was about to say, I mentioned that I'm pregnant, so I think I'm gonna have to like go get Grubhub after this or something. I got some Indian food now.
wish we could ship the food to you because we're cooking so much. So yeah, so Michael, show the spices. So this is a very typical thing in every Indian kitchen. It's like this small steel box with small containers which have the spices which we use every day. So there's turmeric, which is yellow. There's red chili pepper. There's salt. There's also coriander or cilantro powder, and then we keep some like the cumin seeds. You can crush them and keep it, or you can just keep them roasted, and you put it in most of the dishes as garnish. So she put some cumin seeds and the onion and potatoes. Yes, Micah, it's done. You're good. And now she's frying those, and we're going to stuff it back in the bell peppers, and we're going to add these spices on top to flavor the vegetables, the potatoes, and then we'll stuff it in the bell pepper, and then bell pepper will go on the, it can either be baked or you can put it on the pan, and then it will cook with some oil.
So I did see you put something in that pot before you started cooking the potatoes. What was it? Was it butter or was it ghee?
Oh, you mean the Instant Pot?
No, in the orange pot.
Oh, the orange pot was just oil, vegetable oil, and onions.
Okay.
And then she put some cumin seeds. We don't put ghee or butter till for a little bit for the garnish on top for flavor. But most of the food is cooked either in olive oil or vegetable oil.
I'm asking for obvious reasons, right? Because concern about cardiovascular disease and
Exactly.
ghee is a problem. Yeah.
So
Anyway,
yeah, people love ghee now. It's like a fad. Everyone is
I know.
eating a lot of ghee, but in India, growing up, we would use ghee just for garnish. It gives a very nice flavor, but you don't have to make your whole food in ghee. You can just, and then when you make the dal, you make a little bit of a fried onions on top, and you make that with ghee, and then put it on top of the dal when it's. So the last thing which I want to show you, because we have to start the Instant Pot. Michael, can you take it to so the Instant Pot is a blessing, because we used to use like a pressure cooker, and it was a nightmare. Sometimes all the lentils will spurt out. So Instant Pot, you can cook your dal in literally like 5 minutes. And I'll show you, I'm making like 4 different kinds of lentils, and these are very popular, and they're very light to digest. They're not thick like dal makhnis and which you get in restaurants. And so there's a yellow, there's a pink, and then there's a light green. And we mix it to make it together, and it cooks really fast. And that's highly.
Vibha, if they're lentils, do you have to actually let them? If they're dry, do you use fresh, not dry ones? What do you do?
Yeah, so you get them as dry, and these ones don't need to soak overnight. These are the very thin ones, so they just cook right away.
Okay, great.
Today we just soak them for like half hour, just so that it's easier. But normally I quickly take it out of the container, put it in the pot, and then it cooks in like 10 minutes.
Looks fabulous.
And I put some, on the pot, I put some onions already, so that you don't have to do it after. So you can just do everything together, and then put the dal in, and then put it for 10 minutes of pressure cooking, and it will be ready to go in 10 minutes.
Looks delicious. I think that Jen is quietly ordering Grubhub while she's sitting there.
Just texting my husband downstairs.
So we're going to circle back to kids in biotech, so Jen, one of the things that we talked about last time on the podcast and also in between is, what do you do when you're pregnant? At what point do you tell your boss? Because obviously, it's a big deal. You're going to take time off, and maybe your boss is not so enthusiastic about it. Maybe your boss is on the phone. Is Sophie on this podcast with you? Is she your direct?
Yes, she is.
So maybe we'll get your perspective, and then we'll get Sophie's perspective. Is that too crazy?
No, that's great.
Go ahead.
Yeah. So again, it's now happened twice for me. And actually, when I was interviewing for the new position, I remember, thinking that in the near future, I'd be trying to get pregnant again. And it was one of those things where I wanted to ask about what the benefits were like for parental leave and stuff, but you kind of don't want to, you don't know how the manager is yet. So I did end up asking. I think you were on the phone, Sophie, and I asked the recruiter, but yeah, it's just one of those things that I feel like it shouldn't be weird to ask about. It's a benefit, but it's still kind of like you feel weird asking, I guess. So that was definitely something I came across. And then when it came down to actually, telling Sophie, Sophie's great. I don't have anything bad to say. So, but I think I was about maybe like 14 weeks along. And I didn't feel like I needed to, wait a really long time because I was nervous or anything. I just kind of wanted to wait until I had like the 12-week appointment where they say it's kind of safe to tell people. So that was my rationale this time. I actually ended up telling my manager at my previous job early. I told him at I think it was like 10 weeks because I was really sick. I've been super sick with both pregnancies. And I was commuting. So I live in New Hampshire, but I was commuting into Boston for that job. And honestly, it was just really difficult. I was in the lab every day for that position, and it was sometimes difficult to even commute in. And I felt like I had to tell him early because I felt like my performance was just not what it normally is because I was so sick every day. And some days I was taking off. Some days I was leaving early. And I didn't want him to think I was just slacking off. I wanted to have, I guess, have the excuse for it. But again, it was kind of a difficult decision because it is really early and you don't know how they're going to react, if they're going to treat you differently or anything like that. My manager at that position was really great as well. So I didn't feel, scared or anything, but the company sometimes too, you're not sure how upper management, above your manager, is going to feel about it and things like that. So yeah, it's always you're weirdly nervous, even though you shouldn't be, but that's just kind of how I guess our culture is. There's this weird guilt.
Yeah, weird guilt, right?
Yeah.
Well, men get us pregnant, so but somehow
So they should feel
with any guilt. Right.
Yeah, I mean it's kind of sad that it's there, and I think it is a strictly US thing. I mean, again, I would love to talk to people who aren't going through this in the US, but I do think you feel like it's something you should hide until, the last possible minute that you can tell people. And then when you finally can tell people, it's you're wondering, are they going to think that I'm going to be performing less well at work or acting differently or wanting special treatment? And, even if you are really sick, you feel like you have to hide it and kind of power through and things like that.
Right. Jen, so the second time was with Sophie, right?
Yes. Yeah.
Did you feel nervous telling her?
Yeah, but I knew she would react fine. But again, it's this kind of internalized, it's something you should be happy about. And I guess feeling growing up here and just constantly hearing about how you're not supposed to take sick days and you're supposed to kind of power through. It's this strange, internalized nervousness, I guess, when you.
So how much difference do you think it makes to have bosses who are women who have children? So that was always the case with me at FDA. And so there was always a very reasonable amount of support because they understood.
Yeah.
I mean, I can imagine you can find some who don't understand or who are, too egocentric to extend, reasonable kinds of benefits. But for the most part, it was a good thing to have women supervisors who had kids and understood all of the issues. So.
Yeah, I think that does make a big, I think there's certain types of people where it makes a big difference. If you've been through something, obviously you can relate easier. Again, I felt nervous, not because it was Sophie, just because I'm pregnant, I guess. But obviously Sophie's really understanding and in terms of flexibility, you know, if someone's sick or someone has to, like on our team has to leave to pick their kid up or something, it's never been an issue at our work. So that's, I think it helps that we all have a manager who's been through it. And then, yeah, at my previous position, my boss was a younger man. But some part of me thinks because he's younger and a man and hasn't been through it, like it's almost like the opposite, where he's like, I don't know what to expect, because he was new to a management position too. So he'd never had a pregnant employee before. So he's like, yeah, whatever you need, you know, I don't know what you're going through. So kind of just let me know. So I think it could go either way. And I also have heard horror stories about people who've had female bosses who either did or did not have kids and kind of had that attitude of like, well, I toughed through it, so you should, you know, type of thing. So I think it really depends on the person, but in general, it probably helps having someone who's been through it.
Great. We were watching peppers get stuffed, so they look fabulous. And I think we should hear from Sophie to see what she has to say, either about peppers or being the boss of somebody who's pregnant.
Sorry. Okay, peppers, fantastic. They look really good. Now, sorry, my phone was ringing, it was all over the place. Now, Jen, well, when she told me, I was super excited for her, very sincerely happy. And I think one of my thoughts that I didn't share with you, Jen, at the time, I guess, was, oh my God, she's been pregnant all along and I could not support her because I did not know.
Oh, wow.
And I know the first 3 months, they are so hard, that you're tired and everything. And yes, you can't tell anybody, can't tell at work. So, no, I'm super excited for her. But the funny thing, and she knows, I keep forgetting that she's going to be on maternity leave at some point. And not forgetting in terms of how I'm going to manage the workload, just forgetting. And I told her, we're going to miss you. So,
Yes.
No, it's very nice. But I think we're also lucky because we have a team of they all, most of them have kids and they have kids of young age, so they really support each other as well. They have their backs, so they know if someone needs to leave, even in the middle of an experiment, it's never going to be a problem. Someone else will take over. So they have kind of this support there as well within the team, which is fabulous. It's wonderful to see.
Yeah, talk about a network of friends. You need a network of coworkers.
Yes.
Yeah.
I was thinking about that.
Yeah.
Amy had something she wanted to add. Amy?
Oh, I just was going to say, I'm not surprised that Sophie is so wonderful. We all know.
Remember, this is going to go public.
No, but you know what it's like. I didn't.
What could be bad?
Make me blush. Let's talk about that really weird thing that is happening on the street.
Yeah, what is happening?
Yeah.
Is that the eggplant?
That's the eggplant. Yeah, she's taking the skin off the eggplant because it was all charred, and she's going to put that in the compost, I'm sure. Look at that. I mean, one big eggplant turns into nothing. The lesson I learned while I was learning how to roast eggplants is that you start with 3 or 4, because if you're going to have enough to feed your guests, you actually have to start with that many. They are delicious, though, if they're roasted. So I wanted to share that I had a graduate student just schedule a private call with me on Zoom. So this is maybe a lesson for future biotech women. She said she didn't want to talk in group meetings. She wanted to talk with me privately. And so we got on Zoom and she said, I had a life event. And I said, you're pregnant. And she said, how did you know? And I said, well, you just got married about a year ago, so I'm just guessing, you know. And so it was really nice because we had a chance to talk about what it's like to be pregnant. Turns out she was really sick like you, Jen. She had a lot of nausea. She wasn't eating anything. She'd lost like 10 pounds already. So we had a great talk about, you know, there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and then you get pregnant, and then you're fine. And then you have this great little, you know, passenger with you all the time. I used to just feel so great about that. I worked in a prison at the time. And so when I was working at the prison doing HIV care, I would come in pregnant, and my patients just loved it. They loved the fact that I was pregnant. And, and of course that interfered with my OB appointments as well. So I had the ultrasounds actually at the prison so that I could check on the baby's growth. But, but it's fun, right, Jen? It's really nice to be pregnant. It's fun to have a pregnancy, and you go to work with your baby and you take the baby everywhere. After the baby is born, it's more complicated.
Yeah. I have not enjoyed either pregnancy, but I definitely I tell everyone there's like a golden window in the second trimester when you're not that sick anymore, and then you're not super fat yet. So that is like okay, I kind of like being pregnant, and then and then you're huge. And but yeah, no, I think it definitely gets more complicated once the baby's here, and obviously there's no way to describe it to people unless you're in it. And again, like COVID just kind of made that even crazier, but here's me doing it for the second time in COVID. So
yeah, let's talk a little bit about that, because I think that as a boss, I can definitely see that some of the women that work with us at EpiVax have kids, and I admire their resilience, because they'll be presenting to a client on Zoom a very complicated story, and the kids will come in, and this particular person will go, "Excuse me 1 minute, I'll be right back." She'll turn off the video, be gone for about 30 seconds or less, maybe 10 seconds. What do you think, Katie? It's really quick.
Yeah. Sometimes she's good. She's quick.
And she comes back and there's no kid anymore. So I don't know, have you had that experience, Jen?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, I mean, again, it's usually because someone else is here or he's napping. Like I've happened to luck out, and like a lot of my meetings have just happened to be when he's napping. So that's like always great. But yeah, again, it's all about that network. So I think if you were by yourself, it would be really difficult without bringing in like in-home care, like Amy was talking about, because if you're on a call or something, I mean, you can't control if your kid's fussy that day and just really wants, to be held for, hours. So.
And you've escaped COVID so far, so you haven't had it at home, and your kids
Yeah, that we know. I mean, since testing's been available and everything, and his daycare has had a lot of cases, and cases where he had contact with people and we've tested him and he's been negative so far. So it's really sad. He's like, he has PTSD when he like sees Q-tips now, because he's had so many COVID tests. I feel so horrible.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it's a weird world right now, but yeah, I mean, we've escaped it, and obviously my husband and I are vaccinated, and we'll get him vaccinated as soon as possible. Hopefully it won't be too much longer, but again, it's hard because, and I've seen a lot of articles on this recently, a lot of the world is kind of moving on and saying, well, if you want to get vaccinated, you can get vaccinated, and severe disease is decreased, but there's still populations out there that can't be vaccinated, and it's kind of like, we have to still be careful. We still don't go out to eat indoors. We still don't like to take him to the grocery store and things like that, because he's probably going to get it at daycare if he does get it, but that's one thing we're not willing to give up right now.
Yeah, it's really scary. So Viva, you have kids in school. How's your household doing?
So thankfully they are grown up enough that I don't need to monitor if they're getting on their computer screens during COVID. They're back in school now, so they have been going to school since last October. So it's the same as usual. It's back to the pre-COVID times. So I just have to worry about bringing them from their activities, and they get their homeworks done in school nowadays, so we don't have to worry about that. So the main, like when they grow up, they have to be taken to their extracurriculars, which is a lot of investment. My son goes for a music, like a orchestra practice, which is 1 hour away every Tuesday. So that's like a lot of time commitment. We leave at 5 and we won't come back till 10 o'clock in the night. So he's all into the music. They're 4 different practices in the week, one in New York City. So there's no downtime for us. All the weekends and the evenings are taken in that. Same for Micah, she does fencing, so she's doing her tournament, so she comes back in the night late. So it's business as usual, I guess. You get used to it, but you have to just make sure they eat at the right times, and then they're gone, and then they come back and they have to do their homeworks or other activities. So it's different kind of stress, but it's a lot of good proactive time management needed, which they have to learn anyways if they have to go into college soon.
That's great. Okay, but where are we with the food? I see the peppers are stuffed and on the stove.
The peppers are stuffed. They are really, can you show them how they're looking? So I put them in a like a saute pan, and they have to cook on all sides because the peppers were raw. So they're cooking, and we'll blister them from all sides, and then they will be cooked within like 5-10 minutes. You have to keep on moving them to do that on all sides.
Yeah.
And then the next thing is the eggplant. So we made the tomato and the onion thing, and eggplant is mashed, and it's going to go into that tomato and onion mixture. And then we are going to just let it mix with it well, so the flavors come together. I already put the spices in it, like some turmeric and some cilantro powder and a little bit of chili pepper, because none of the my family can take the hot spicy stuff anymore.
So wait, so Vibha, is the dal already cooking? So the lentils are cooking, and you're going to add that?
So dal is separate. It's cooking in that instant pot. And so the way the Indian, it's called the Indian plate, like it has a small amount of protein which comes from the dal. Then you have a vegetable, then you have something we call the pickles. We have pickles which we make separately, and they're preserved. So it's called the Indian thali. Thali is a big plate, and you have small portions of all of this, like one vegetable, one yogurt dish, some rice, some chapatis, like, bread, and then dal, and then you will have a sweet. So the Indians always have some sweet to end the meal. So you'll have like a rice pudding or some kind of a semolina. It's called halwa. So something to end, and then you always have some tea as a digestive. So it's like made with cloves and cinnamon, and that's how you end your meal. So that's why we make, like my husband will always say, if I make like only 2 dishes, if someone is coming, it's like, oh, it doesn't seem enough. Like, it took so much time to make it, but he's like, okay, it doesn't seem like it's enough. You have to make a couple more dishes. And so in the end, we always have like 3 vegetables, a couple curry dishes, and then, but as you see, everything can be done in parallel. So you can make
yeah. So sorry, the eggplant is going with the tomatoes and onions. That's one. And the peppers that are stuffed with the potatoes, that's another. And the dal is another. And you probably have yogurt already prepared and the pickles prepared. Okay, cool. Great.
Yeah. And then we'll make some rice, the boiled rice, because dal and rice go well. And you can make chapati too, but then I think when we can meet one time together, then I'll make the chapatis in person.
Deal. I know, we need to do this in the summer.
Yeah.
So I wanted to actually, so one of the topics we had tonight is what are the things that you cook quickly when you come home from work, because you have to feed the kids and you have to make something that you like and is healthy in 30 minutes. So you just told us what you make, Vibha, but maybe we could hear from everybody else. We'll start with Sophie, because it's always an interesting story to hear from Sophie about her quick comfort food. Comfort food, Sophie, what do you do?
Well, so first of all, I do not cook, but I've been trying to learn and practice, because I know at some point here is going to be my turn. So I'm getting there. So all to say that meals that can be prepped in 30 minutes. Well, my daughter's been raised on pasta, ketchup, cheese on top. She loves it. Or even we try rice, ketchup, cheese. She likes that too. No, I also, no, we had lots of soup. I can't even remember because that's so bad. but it was never, I never bought anything that was a ready meal, something full of salts and fat and frozen. So I would buy frozen stuff, but it was frozen stuff that I could mix, and it was all natural. And so like the soup was just vegetables and.
Oh, good. Well, it's
So
good to know that that ketchup is a vegetable, as they used to say.
ketchup is a vegetable. That was the only thing that I was kind of okay with it. If I only had to have anything to eat. The thing is that she has not changed, so it's very easy for me. Oh yeah, I cook something for her. No, usually, so if I try to cook, she doesn't like it anyway. She won't eat it. So I find myself with my nice, I mean, maybe not so nice. That's why she doesn't eat. But so she asked me, "Oh, can you cook? Can you make some pasta?" The other day, and I said, "Oh, but do you want a pasta with omelette? Because that's something that my mom used to do." So pasta, and then you have leftovers. Then you fry them.
Yes.
In the pan,
Yeah.
and then you put that. You make that into an omelette. So I
Yeah.
did that, and I didn't burn it.
Okay. Pasta omelet. I made those in Italy when I lived there, but
Yeah.
yes, that is a real thing. They're good.
And of course,
Yeah. Ketchup.
she ruins everything. I won't try it anymore because she would ruin everything with ketchup anyway. So, thank you.
Put it in. Okay, Amy, what's your comfort food?
So when I started living on my own in medical school and such, I found this wonderful cookbook by Marcella Hazan. I don't know if you guys know her. She's a wonderful Italian chef, and she's written many books. And the beauty of her recipes, most of them, is that they're quick. So you could put together a tomato basil garlic sauce in 20 minutes, and it'll be finished by 30. So talk about pasta. So you add that. But mostly what I try and do is cook over the weekend so that I have things that can just be heated up. And that, I think, really, that helps. Also, you can broil fish very, very quickly and apply a sauce you can make, again, a Marcella Hazan sauce called Sal Mariglio sauce, which is a olive oil, lemon, thyme sauce. On top of broiled fish. It's absolutely wonderful. So
we'll have to get you to cook that for us. Okay, yes. We're going to do comfort food, Katie Porter.
Well, I live alone, so I don't cook very often. But I'm lucky enough to share a 2-family home with my mother, and I do have her making lots of comfort food downstairs for me and my brother, who also lives downstairs. And recently I did have COVID, and I was very sick, and my mother joined a soup group just so she could make me as many different types of soup as she possibly could in the 5 days that I was in bed.
Your mom is a saint. Oh my God.
So my comfort food comes right from the source, I guess you could say.
That's so sweet. Okay, Jen, we're running out of time, so we want to hear your comfort food. What do you cook when you come home? The kid needs to eat. You just got home from work. What do you cook?
Well, I am the eater. I do not cook. I'm like Sophie. I grew up, my mom worked all the time, and I just never really learned. But I love eating. Like when I lived alone, I would get takeout all the time. So my husband loves cooking, so I lucked out. That's probably like half the reason I married him. But yeah, so he'll make, he does the big batches on the weekends as well. And one of our go-tos is just anything on the grill with like roasted potatoes. So he'll do either like salmon or chicken thighs is a big one, because the breasts can get a little dry, but like the thighs are so good. So anything like that. Yeah, and we love the Instant Pot too. So I was glad that Vippa was, talking about it. We'll do like mac and cheese or pastas like in the Instant Pot, and like they take 15 minutes. It's really fast.
Okay, so I'm going to tell you mine, and then we're going to go around the room here and talk about the last thing, which is what's your go to for joy during the pandemic? So think about that. And I'll tell you what mine is. So I lived in Italy for about a year when I was 17. And one of the things that my hosts made, I was the au pair girl for this couple, is carrot sauce. They would take onions and then fry them with carrots that are like, you know, in those rounds, and then add tomato sauce and put it in the blender. And I served that with pasta. And then I would, for my kids, I would steam some broccoli. So those three things, the really orange, beautiful sauce, the pasta with Parmesan, and then the broccoli, that was the perfect meal for the kids. They ate that a lot. And so that's my comfort food when I come home and I want to cook something healthy and beautiful. That's what I cook. So now we're going to do joy. We have just a few minutes left. So we're going to go around the room and ask everyone. Doesn't have to be a thing. It can be music. It can be a podcast. It can be whatever, your child. It can be your dog, whatever you think is something that you'd like to share with us that has been really a bit of solace during the pandemic so far. So all you big biotech mavens, now you can share your joy with us. Vibha, you start.
I like to go to the wineries. And so and in fact, it was funny when we bought the house in New Jersey, we didn't know there was a winery right across. I would never have thought that in New Jersey, I would find this huge winery and they have all these wine events, because that was the first thing that I was like, oh my God, I'm coming out of Southern California and we had this wine club membership and now we have nowhere to go. So yeah, so visiting a winery any time of the year, that's what I like to do with my husband, actually.
Wow.
Great.
That's convenient.
There's one in Southern Rhode Island. Maybe we should do a podcast at the winery. Let's think about it, Katie.
All right.
All right. Okay, Jen.
Yeah, so actually the pandemic has kind of helped this, but my husband and I, one of our hobbies is like hobby farming. So he's kind of the plant guy. He has a huge garden that we all kind of help out in. And then I really like animals. So we have 2 dogs and we have a flock of chickens.
Wow.
Someday I hope to have goats, but maybe after the next newborn. I don't know. But yeah, so we've had a lot more time because we've been working from home more and it's been great.
Great. Awesome. Sophie.
Jen, do you sometimes have extra eggs that you don't?
Yeah, they slow down a little bit in the winter, but in the
Because
summer we should have extra.
Now that you know that I can't, I make omelette.
Yeah, I'll just leave some on your desk.
You know, some common ground here on the eggs.
There you go. I'll leave some on your desk in the summer for sure. Yeah, we usually give them to our neighbors when we have extra, so I could definitely bring them in.
Wonderful.
Okay. Joy, Sophie, joy.
Joy. Okay, I'm gonna confess something that started during the pandemic, but be aware. Okay, I have no shame. I have to say it. I started to buy toys from my childhood. I don't know. I didn't know that they would be so popular in the US. That the German toys, the Playmobil. I don't know if you little guys, like plastic guys. So and it's funny because the ones that I really, really want to buy again were the one the construction work, the road work.
Huh.
That was my thing.
Wow.
So I looked everywhere, so on eBay, on Etsy, and even on the French website. So I had some delivered from France to France and to my niece. They all have little pieces here and there waiting for me. So to the point that my daughter said, "Mom, I think we're good now. I think we're good." So my resolution for February.
That is so cool. I probably threw out about 150 pieces of Playmobil.
Don't say that.
I know. I'm so sorry to say that, but it's true. That and those baseball cards that he was collecting. I'll never hear the end of that.
So so that brought me a lot of joy. And I also bought new ones that I'm going to keep for Siham's children. And because
Yes.
for them, but I'm going to keep in the box in case they get really expensive, because I saw the one, I might make a lot of money with my COVID Playmobiles, the new ones.
Wow, COVID Playmobiles. Okay, cool, Sophie. That's a new aspect of you that I had no idea about.
I know. But
Same.
That's it.
Same.
I won't tell
My
anyone,
big-
Sophie.
my big secret.
Okay, Amy, joy.
Well, I don't know if it's joy. I think it's just inducing endogenous endorphins. And that is, I'm in a yoga group, which has a Zoom meeting every day at 5:30. And yoga makes you feel wonderful, but also keeping up the swimming and reading good books. And I think that's, and cooking.
Cooking. Food's good. Yeah, good. Great. Thanks, Amy. Katie?
So prior to the pandemic, I lived alone in a condominium on my own. My mother had the big house we grew up in. And right before the pandemic, we bought a home together. My brother also was doing his own thing. When the pandemic hit, he came to live with us as well. So I think my favorite part of the pandemic was family and having everyone right here. Not what I had anticipated at all. My mother had anticipated, because I travel a lot with EpiVax, my mother had anticipated being alone in this big house by herself. And then she was in the house with me and my brother, totally unexpectedly. And
your dog.
And both of our dogs, and they brought all the joy. That's definitely the best part of the pandemic for me.
Great. And mine has been Jack.
Yes.
Jack the Whack, or Happy Jack.
Also arrived right before the pandemic.
Yes, he arrived in November, and we were shut down basically in March. So he's been just the best couch potato Zoom buddy you could ever imagine. And he gets me out every day, 3 times a day. And used to go running with me. So running is the other joy that I have in life. And then, of course, the last thing you guys already know is BTS. I'm a huge BTS fan, and it's been an amazing journey to be on. I actually found out one of the reasons I like them so much. So if you don't know who they are, they're a boy band from Korea. But it's the fashion, Sophie. It's the fashion. It's like the clothes that they wear are unbelievable. Check it out.
Okay, I'll have another look.
So I also love fashion, just like you love Playmobil. I love fashion. So that's my secret. Now it's out.
Cannot mention it ever again.
All right. So that probably wraps it up for today.
Let's check in with Viva.
Oh, Viva.
The food and the food.
She said joy. Yeah. Oh, the food. Tell us about the food.
The food.
It's ready. Everything is ready. So can you guys show the bell peppers and the eggplants, and then dal? We are taking off the pressure of the Instant Pot.
Great.
Can't wait to get those recipes.
Lily, we are she's doing that with her sleeve. I noticed, Lily.
Oh, look.
Wow, nice. Okay, cool.
Peppers.
Stuffed peppers in a casserole pan. I never knew you could just cook them as stuffed in the pan. That's like something totally new to me. So
And you're just softening up the peppers, the fresh
yeah.
peppers. Oh, yeah.
That's cool. Okay, great. Well, we want that one too.
Micah started making the rice, so that will be ready in 10 minutes. So it's
Great.
just like regular Indian basmati.
Yeah.
So,
And where's your doll? Did the doll get finished in the?
yeah, dal is done. We will. I'm releasing the pressure on the Instant Pot. It's all done. But let's look at the eggplant.
Potatoes.
That's your.
Ooh, there's something very orange in there. What is it?
It's all the tomatoes.
Ah, beautiful.
And then we put like some cilantro leaves, and
Yes.
then I put green peas. So most of the
Wow.
time, the green peas frozen, so you can just put them up at the very last 5 minutes of cooking. into the eggplant with the tomatoes and onions. So that's one of the, it's considered one of the good combinations with the eggplant.
Viva, are you going to put that over the peppers, or is it just kind of on the side?
Side.
Okay.
Everything is on the side. Bell peppers are on their own.
Separate.
Eggplant is on its own. Dal is in a small bowl. And
Okay.
you have rice, and then you put the dal on the rice. You mix it, and you put these veggies with it. You can eat it as a second bite or third bite, and you can have some bread with it.
Yum.
Great.
Yum.
All right.
Wow.
Let's see quickly the dal. That's the last.
Okay. Yes.
All
And
right.
this will all cost me like $120 on Grubhub.
On Grubhub. Yeah, plus it won't
Like
taste
one
the
of
same.
everything, please.
Yeah. Wow, that looks
Look at
great.
that. Yeah.
Yeah, it looks so much better than when you go to the restaurant and get it. Honestly, Viva, I'm feeling like I want Indian food too, but I know it's not the same. I'm coming to New Jersey. All right.
Yes, we should meet and do a podcast from here, from my home.
Okay.
I like it.
Well, so we should thank your two helpers, Lily, Michaela.
Yes.
Yes, thank you so much.
Lily and Mahi, you want to come and say bye to them? Okay, you can just let it be. You just say hello, bye to
Okay.
everyone.
Thank you so much for your help. Thank you. And we'll say thank you, Lily. And we'll say thank you also to Jen. Thank you for sharing your story and telling us about what it's like to have kids and be a biotech aficionado in the middle of the COVID pandemic.
Yeah, thanks so much for having me. It's a lot of fun.
Thank you, Jennifer.
All right. Have a great evening, everyone. It was delightful as usual. See you next time.
Okay.
Thanks for listening, everyone. Bye now.
Bye.
Bye.